Some Americans may have been taken aback by the biggest news of the evening following the presidential debate, which almost removed Kamala Harris's impressive poker hand from the front pages. The biggest celebrity voice in politics, Taylor Swift, endorsed her just minutes after the candidates wrapped up their third of 4-day job interviews. But does it really matter if she supports Harris? Of course, Taylor Swift has supported Kamala Harris as well, and you can thank Donald Trump for that. Swift's usually composed demeanor was upended by Trump in a single social media post, drawing her into the political sphere. What's the deal? She caused a stir that few could have predicted, and now Taylor Swift is waxing poetic about it after Trump shared something on Instagram that really infuriated her. Even though Taylor's fans appear to be Trump supporters and she appears in a rather shabby photo leaked from some AI, she refused to accept it. Upon noticing this, she took to Instagram to discuss it, and her concerns about artificial intelligence AI abusing its informational power caused chaos in the political sphere. This is significant because it implies that almost everyone is familiar with every song by heart by Taylor, but has never really been exposed to her political views. Although she reluctantly supported Tennessee Democrats in 2018, she never deviated from her fan base. She made a significant change by coming out for Kamala Harris. As you may remember, Taylor didn't say much about politics in 2018. However, she has since changed her mind. In 2018, she gave her first national political endorsement to Phil Bredesen and Jim Cooper, two Democrats from Tennessee. She criticized Republican Senate candidate Marsha Blackburn harshly on Instagram due to her horrifying and disgusting voting history. In the lead-up to the 2020 election, Swift made a reference to Trump in her post, but she did not specifically mention him. She said, "I like the music, so I reduced the 25% discount to answer on my merchandise." By 2020, it was evident that George Floyd's passing had brought the political atmosphere to a breaking point. Swift criticized him after he made his contentious statement online, which sparked protests all over the nation. She said, "You simply will not be putting my vote in November," and claimed that he was inciting violence. Later that year, she attacked Trump again for his attempts, in her opinion, to rig the democratic process by stabilizing the U.S. Postal Service ahead of the election.
It really is a big deal. She votes against fair pay for women. She votes against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, which is just basically protecting us from domestic abuse and stalking. She thinks that if you're a gay couple, or even if you look like a gay couple, you should be allowed to be kicked out of a restaurant. It's really basic human rights, and it's right and wrong at this point. And I can't see another commercial and see her disguising these policies behind the words Tennessee Christian values. Those aren't Tennessee Christian values.
Swift made Biden-Harris 2020 cookies and openly supported Joe Biden for president in a V magazine cover story. Later, Harris thanked Swift for her message writing on Instagram. Swift and Trump's seemingly never-ending feud is evidence of what a superstar they are. In February, Trump also stated on Truth Social that, despite the fact that their political views could not be more dissimilar, Swift would not betray him by not endorsing Biden, as the singer claimed, since Trump had made her a ton of money by signing the Music Modernization Act. But things don't stop there.
I just say to the MAGA people, you should be very careful attacking her, because this is someone who transcends parties. This is a person who could literally swing the election.
Ignoring that advice, Trump took a shot at Taylor anyway. There's no way she could endorse Crooked Joe and be disloyal to the man who made her so much money. Trump also ramped up his personal attacks on Nikki Haley.
What happened to her husband? What happened to her husband? Where is he? He's gone.
Haley's husband, Michael, is a major in the National Guard, currently deployed in Africa.
Anyone who will put down members of the military, anyone who will say that while they're deployed, which is pretty disgusting, do you really want that person being the leader of all those who may have to go fight in a war?
Donald Trump is taking aim at Taylor Swift days after she publicly endorses Vice President Kamala Harris for president. In a post on his Truth Social network, the former president writes in all caps, quote, "I hate Taylor Swift," without context or explanation. Liz Cheney, the Republican former congressional representative who is backing Harris, quotes his comment and writes on X, formerly Twitter, says the smallest man who ever lived, referencing a track from Taylor's most recent album, The Tortured Poets Department. It's not the first time the former president is publicly speaking against the 14-time Grammy Award-winning singer. Taylor broke her silence about the upcoming U.S. presidential election following a televised debate between the two candidates on September 10th. The global superstar writes at the time in the caption of an Instagram post, quote, "Like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances these candidates take on the topics that matter to you the most." She continues, quote, "As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for this country." According to Taylor, she will be voting for Kamala and her running mate Tim Walz because, quote, "She fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them."
In June 2024, the Swift attacks became personal. Trump questioned Swift's political sincerity, and he called her exceptionally beautiful in the book Apprentice in Wonderland. He seemed so perplexed as to how a country music star could be prosperous, and rap was highlighted by outspoken liberal scriptwriters. A few weeks later, an irate Trump asked staff members why Swift would support this dope when she hadn't endorsed him. Having in mind Joe Biden,
You have a lot of Swifties coming forward saying she's so much more than beautiful, she's very talented. And of course, this is a fan base that you don't want to mess with, especially right before the presidential election. So in this book, the former president said, "I think she's beautiful, very beautiful. I find her very beautiful. I think she's liberal. She probably doesn't like Trump. I hear she's very talented." He then went on to say, "She is liberal, or is that just an act?"
It's an incredibly creepy. I'm sorry, I know it's morning, but I just threw up a little bit in my mouth when you read those quotes. It's just a disgusting thing, and Mr. Trump should pay himself hush money. He should just shut up about Taylor Swift. And you can tell he is scared of her.
There's some serious crazy talk about Taylor Swift and Joe Biden going around right now. This is one of those things, you expect to hear this from a couple of nuts and then it disappears, but if anything, it's picking up steam.
Swift's career took off after he signed the Bipartisan Music Modernization Act. So even though he hasn't spoken to her in almost 4 years, Trump publicly attacked the singer on his purported platform, saying that she couldn't possibly support Joe Biden. Along with calling Swift a non-political entity, Trump also began to criticize Swift's appearance. Trump posted artificial intelligence AI-generated pictures on Twitter in August, one of which showed Swift dressed like Uncle Sam and urging people to vote for him. Before Trump became a built batshit, Swift swiftly endorsed Kamala Harris in an Instagram post, describing Harris as a calm, gifted leader who is an alternative to chaos. "I now like Taylor Swift's music about 25% less, which makes me a less likely voter. Swift will suffer from this endorsement in the marketplace." It didn't work out, though, as Swift's supporters overwhelmingly defended her for her patronizing comments. This is where the interesting part of it all comes in relation to Trump's obsession with Swift. It's clear from his criticism of her how much he respects her success and notoriety. Seeing him struggle with the fact that someone so powerful is not rooting for him is almost comical. It is simply another way of saying that Taylor is playing the game to win, as evidenced by her decision to publicly support Kamala Harris. There have even been rumors that Taylor may do so at the Democratic National Convention. However, party insiders claimed they were afraid Palin would overshadow them all, so that idea was dropped almost immediately. Sheesh, this is the power that belongs to Taylor Swift, but it doesn't seem like Donald Trump is worried about the Swiftie vote. Even after Taylor Swift gave Kamala Harris her support, Trump hasn't indicated that he will stop saying what he has, good or bad. This prompted Trump to appear on Fox News, the nation's news program, and make hints that Taylor Swift might suffer consequences in the marketplace for her support. To be clear, he did not think well of her. Politics this week. The Trump campaign also joined the fray by releasing new merchandise that bore a striking resemblance to Swift's wildly successful Eras Tour poster. The merchandise was dubbed a Trump-era shirt. In the final stages of the election season, Trump is adding some drama with his feuds with celebrities. He has not, however, directly challenged Swift, breaking her bubble. Swift has long favored progressive policies that encourage more people to vote, and her endorsement of Harris is undoubtedly her largest to date. As the election draws closer, the fallout from this dispute may be felt deeply by both Swift's supporters and Trump's detractors. My favorite example is when Swift puts some of her boomer-loving fans in an awkward situation. Swift proved her PLL Wisconsin vote, and she has an enormous fan base. Instagram, which attracted over 400,000 users in a single day. Remember that the aforementioned site received about 30,000 visits per day on average.
Taylor Swift using her moment on stage at the VMAs to call on voters to register, young voters especially, to register to vote. The night before that, she had announced her support for Kamala Harris. And one voter registration group has pointed to a huge spike in traffic and telling CNN the Swift effect is undeniable. Let's look at all of this. Harry Enton is here. So, undeniable.
Great
You
word.
get to be the judge on that. This all gets to young voters.
Yeah.
How much does she need help? How can?
Yeah, I mean, why does Kamala Harris welcome Taylor Swift's support? Why does she need the help? Well, so Kamala Harris will absolutely welcome in the support of Taylor Swift if she can move young voters at all, because the bottom line is Kamala Harris is, in fact, not doing as well among young voters as you might expect a Democrat to necessarily be doing based upon history.
And what we heard from Taylor Swift last night was a call to register to vote, get involved. Why? How much of voter registration and why is that key? How important is that?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's go to the key battleground states of Pennsylvania and North Carolina, all right? And what we're going to do here is look at the Democratic advantage over Republicans in voter registration. This is party registration, registering as a Democrat, a Republican, or unaffiliated. Look, if you go back to September of 2020, look, among active voters in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you saw Democrats with, look at that, a 559,000 voter edge over Republicans. You jump now, look, Democrats still have an edge. But look how much that's dropped. It's now just 169,000. We're talking about the Republicans closing the gap by nearly 400,000 voters in just a 4-year time span. You go to North Carolina, it's the same exact trend, right? You go back to September of 2020, you see Democrats with a 415,000 voter edge, and now they still hold an edge, but it's just 128,000. And of course, both of these states were determined by less than 100,000 voters back in 2020. So the bottom line is Republicans have been doing a significantly better job of registering voters than Democrats have been doing over the last 4 years and getting folks to switch over from Democratic registration to Republican registration. So yeah, Kamala Harris would definitely welcome the idea if Taylor Swift could bring in some more younger voters, Democratic-leaning voters in the electorate, because the bottom line is Republicans have been doing a heck of a lot better job of registering voters than Democrats have over the last 4 years.
Clearly, when Swift speaks, people pay attention and take action. As astounding as that number may be, we have no way of knowing if those clicks actually resulted in voter registrations or how these new voters will behave when they cast ballots. It's difficult to gauge Taylor's level of popularity among voters these days, especially in a state like Arizona, where Latino voters, who make up 22% of the population, vote in large numbers and supported President Obama's 71-27%. Although the impact of celebrity endorsements on politics is up for debate, the idea is by no means new. We went a little crazy in 2008 when Oprah Winfrey gave Barack Obama her endorsement. Based on reports of her impact, researchers examined book sales and Oprah magazine subscribers to calculate the possibility that she gave Obama an additional 1 million votes. Not bad, huh? Well, that's during the primaries, when voters frequently contrast candidates with almost exacting positions, which increases the potential seismicity of a trusted mouthpiece endorsement. However, there will be a general election, similar to the one that is approaching. Voters' decisions are largely influenced by party loyalty, and it would be difficult for a celebrity to convince them otherwise. After all, Beyoncé and LeBron James both endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016, and she's not even the president yet. Kamala Harris is not your typical general election candidate. Many voters have yet to learn about Kamala Harris, who entered the race late. According to a New York Times poll, 30% of voters thought more information about Mrs. Clinton was necessary, while only 9% thought the same about Mr. Trump. This could be advantageous for Harris's Taylor Swift endorsement, particularly if it helps him connect with those who haven't yet taken a stand. More intriguingly, given Swift's global influence and her youthful, Democratic-leaning fan base, some doors may open for her Trumpian supporters. All political persuasions support Ms. Posey. A Yugoslav poll found that most voters who detest both Trump and Harris also support Swift. Given the nature of this election, political advertising featuring Swift endorsing Harris may find some traction given the extreme polarization of voters this year and the scarcity of neutral voters. One thing is certain, though before Swift came out for Harris, many of our fans, known as the Swifties, were already politically organized and not to be trifled with. Taylor's endorsement merely validates the work that a group that began when Biden was well behind in the race had already been doing to get people registered to vote, even before those Swifties for Kamala. Professor Aaron Rossiter of political science observed that Kamala Swifties are not shocked by this statement in the slightest. Now that Taylor is on board, they can keep pushing forward even more. Taylor's backing might not change many people's minds, but it might encourage more people to cast ballots. Even a small increase in turnout, especially among millennials who typically abstain from elections in a closely contested race, could have significant consequences. Celebrities, such as Swift, who is admired by young voters, are more enduring than traditional political figures. A Penn State Berkeley student, for example, clarified that our role models are the individuals we aspire to be like. Additionally, a feeling of community may be sufficient to persuade some of these potential abstainers to cast their ballots. The response to tailored support has already been very instructive. Less than a day after Glass opened her store for her first collection on June 11th, the Harris campaign, which was selling friendship bracelets made by Swift, ran out of the jewelry. It's a sign that this kind of fervor could lead to actual voting. Swift and other celebrities are having an impact on this election, and those who are closer to Trump are beginning to distance themselves. The most prominent person in his campaigns and administration, his daughter Ivanka Trump, has not been seen as much this time around. Perhaps it is fitting that the BBC publish a piece amid the Cornergate grab explaining why its knowledgeable voice of youth and race has discreetly avoided public life, thereby deepening the seeming divide between her and her father's views on politics. Melania Trump, the former First Lady, has also mostly avoided the spotlight. Although Melania was a mainstay of Trump's earlier campaigns, her silence at the RNC was deafening. Even those seated closest to Trump in inner circle Teapotsville appear to have rethought their public endorsement of him, given the precarious future that now awaits his political endeavor. It raises the question of whether Trump can maintain the support of influential people and his base even in the absence of support from his own family. Along with the significant boost Taylor Swift has provided to younger voters on the Harris side, Trump might have faced more resistance than he would have if Ivanka Trump had been his daughter for the 2024 presidential campaign. The decision is a dramatic turnabout for Trump's longtime senior advisor, who, along with Kushner, held a great deal of influence within the president's inner circle. However, the couple's affluent upbringing put them at odds with Trump's supporters, which presented difficulties for them while they were in politics. Story broke by TMZ. Since Donald Trump's defeat by Joe Biden in November of last year, Ivanka and her family have been residing in Miami. They appear to be operating far below the radar in the public eye. There appears to be some distance between Trump and his family members, as evidenced by the growing number of them becoming less noticeable on the campaign trail. She has hardly been present at any significant events, despite rumors that she would receive more attention after her summer break. She was not present at Trump's epic Tuesday victory party, nor at the Iowa campaign launch. When questioned about her plans earlier in the year while on the campaign trail, she cryptically replied, "Stay tuned, Ivanka wasn't present when Trump was embroiled in the historic hush money case concerning Stormy Daniels' allegation that he bought her silence during their alleged relationship. She wasn't going to court, she wasn't yelling her father's defense from the top of buildings. She did, however, reappear on Instagram with a vintage picture, so there's that. I love you, Dad." Ivanka, who doesn't like being included in her dad's disorganized mess, is currently attempting to hide. Because of her past, you never know, of course. She might be ready to return to politics in a role that serves her interests if Trump recovers and wins the presidency. Since then, Melania has mostly disappeared into the spotlight, though she has attended a few fundraisers and her son's high school graduation. This was undoubtedly one of the biggest campaign events of the year, along with the Trump hush money trial in New York, and Grisham has been absent from both. This is a big departure from the even more traditional role of the spouse, which is to serve as a surrogate for campaigns, aiming to reach various voter groups or humanize the candidate. Historians such as Catherine Jellison of Ohio University have noted that the role of political spouse has been active in recent administrations. Instead, they are meant to strengthen the candidate's relationship with voters and enhance the campaign's overall public perception. For instance, Casey DeSantis, the wife of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and Dr. Apurva Ramaswamy, the wife of Vivek Ramaswamy, assisted in managing their husbands' campaigns by attending events and conducting interviews. Melania, in contrast, has shown up and left during Trump's trial and other events, citing her son Barron's academic schedule, according to Trump's aides. Correlating this with conventional campaigns is challenging. Behavior during the campaign, Melania was still working behind the scenes to provide advice and support, as evidenced by the numerous times that Trump mentioned her in speeches and on social media. In spite of this, her lack of public support for Trump, even after he was found guilty of 34 different charges, stands in stark contrast to the public backing that many of his adult children have shown in varying degrees. To help him, Tiffany, Donald Jr., and Ivanka, who shared this adorable Instagram picture for him, have all publicly expressed their support. Still, some fans advise searching for Mill while out on the campaign trail. They anticipate that Trump will keep her out of the spotlight moving forward, but they believe she will still be a vital member of his campaign. She just plays a more understated role than other operatives. So what could prevent them from staying further away? Ivanka might be planning an EC move, perhaps merely setting herself up for a future comeback if Daddy prevails the second time. Melania seems to be more focused on tranquility and, hopefully, a peaceful life. Both women are very astute in their silence, remaining out of the spotlight and possibly even positioning themselves for whatever comes next. So, what are your thoughts? Is there a chance that Taylor Swift will influence the 2024 presidential election? Post your ideas in the comments section below. Please subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends if you enjoyed it. That's really helpful, and I hope to see everyone at the next one. I appreciate you viewing.